Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and SuperJurassTastic July is upon us. And as promised, I said I wanted to cover all three of these movies, and to do so required a little bit of a binge over the last couple weeks. So we're going to be talking a little bit of Jurassic Park as a franchise up to this point, and we're also going to be talking mostly about Jurassic World Rebirth. Of course, I am not alone. None of the normal Nerd Academy players were able to get around to seeing this movie, but we have a very, 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 very special pinch hitter joining me today. It is the one, the only, the lovely Miss Taylor.
Hello, it's me. Hi.
And we had to tee it up with what might be one of the most unintentionally hilarious moments I've seen in a movie in a very long time, which is the scene in Jurassic Park 3 where Alan Grant takes a little nappy poo on an airplane, and before he wakes up, starts to have hallucinatory night terror visions of a raptor saying his name. One more time for the class. Alan. Truly one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But if you're being chased around an ill-conceived theme park by abominations created by man, not by God, and you start to have hallucinatory night terrors of one speaking your name, the only way to wash down your sorrows is with Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse, with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. This former bartender swears by only one Bloody Mary mix, and that is Sunday's. Bloody Mary mixes can never get the job done. They're not as tangy. They're not as flavorful as a from-scratch Bloody Mary. However, one sip of Sunday's changed my mind on that topic forever. So if you want to shake up your Bloody Mary game for life, go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop and use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. But back to the dinosaurs. So I said on the most recent episode of Nerd Academy, until the past couple weeks, I had only seen Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. I had not seen any of the subsequent sequels to either film.
But when was the last time you saw Jurassic Park?
Last time I saw Jurassic Park, maybe I was 12. So, like I said, but much needed rewatch. I've been wanting to rewatch Jurassic Park for some time. I wanted to see one of the anniversary screenings from a couple years ago, but I don't think we had time to.
No.
I was like
what year did it come out?
93, so it would have been 2023. So.
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah, we had a lot going on at that time. But
big year for
big year. But yeah, like I said, I honestly the Jurassic franchise series, whatever. It was always been something that was like, oh yeah, like I saw those two movies and I thought they were pretty good, and I never really thought about them much as like something I needed to revisit. I knew they were legendary films. I knew they were like, defining blockbuster tentpole, just historic films. I also was hankering for a rewatch because I had recently watched Light and Magic, and a lot of I think it's the end. I think it's the end of season 1 is a lot of Jurassic Park. Like because Light and Magic season 1 basically takes you from Star Wars, the stuff they did in between the original trilogy movies, a little bit of post Return of the Jedi, mostly being Jurassic Park, and then kind of like a blitz up to the modern day, and then season 2 picks up with the prequel trilogy. But watching them talk about how they did the dinosaurs and how this was kind of a turning point for ILM in terms of special effects, that it was like, oh, this is the moment they went, we don't really need to keep building shit. Like, we are on the cutting edge of technology, and this might be the only feasible way to make this movie happen. And it was kind of one of those points where, especially in my opinion today, ILM is at its best, where it is not necessarily equal parts, but the groundbreaking CGI gets to share the stage with the legendary model making. And like I said, watching those episodes of Light and Magic, I was like, God, I really want to fucking watch Jurassic Park again. So this was my first soiree into kind of getting all the way into the Jurassic movies. Taylor, we didn't even really talk much about this. You said you had kind of like fleeting memories of the first, or of 2 and 3. I've only seen World.
No, so I before we had dated, I had rewatched a couple of, like, I rewatched Jurassic Park, like
The Lost World.
I never watched 3. And then of course I watched Jurassic World because Bryce Dallas Howard, those shoes, those scenes, can't get rid of it. Also, Chris Pratt does it for me in that movie. Okay, that one specifically, but I have not seen like all of them, and I've never seen Fallen Kingdom. I had not seen Dominion. So this was my first like viewership of those, and I have always loved the Jurassic movies. I love dinosaurs. And like the first Jurassic Park movies, I remember when I was very little, when my cousins were very little, so I'm 10 years older than them, and Peter's probably like 4 or 5, and I'm 14, watching the end for like really the first time, and it was just one of those moments where I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing in the world. And I had not made it really a point to watch it until like later in my adulthood, but I have been I love dinosaurs, man. That's what watching, like when we were watching Jurassic Park together, I had said that moment where Dr. Grant and Ellie see the dinosaurs for their first time arriving at Jurassic Park after, like, on their little safari, was my like, wow, this is everything that, you know, like movies, imagination, like everything that it could possibly be. Jarod, my Star Wars moment where I was like, this was the peak of everything. When I watched this and I saw that, like I saw them roaming, and I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
You reacted to that the way I, at a young age, reacted to seeing the Duel of the Fates for the first time.
Yes.
Of that, like, oh my God, this battle between good and evil, and it's incredible, and there's so much riding on this one moment. You know, with that, taking in the majesty of the dinosaurs. No, and like I said, I was very excited to revisit this, especially with you, because you know you were more invested in just the dinosaurs alone. I was never really a dinosaur kid. I was never really a dinosaur kid. I'm like, you know, I think I had like a couple dinosaur toys here and there, but I wasn't, I'm about to tell on myself here. I've never actually seen The Land Before Time.
Jarod!
I think I may have seen the Disney movie Dinosaur once on Disney Channel interrupted by commercial breaks as a child and was like kind of mostly playing my Game Boy while it was on. I was never a kid who was like fucking dinosaurs. I was always like, oh yeah,
seen The Land Before Time. When we wrap up, you come out of there, and I'm sorry, you're gonna cry tonight. Okay, that's the goal. The Land Before Time was a monumental film for me as a child. Okay,
for many people our age, and I never got around to it. I never got around to it.
Was like, damn, people do just be dying in your life. That's rough, but you still have friendship. Okay, your friendship, and that's what matters. And for you to not have seen that have you seen All Dogs Go to Heaven?
Once at school.
You're going to hell.
That's the litmus test?
Yep.
Damn. That's harsh to hear. That's harsh to find out like that.
Sorry.
I'm having the Trump when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died moment. Just finding out for the first time. I didn't hear just now. I'm finding this out. Wow. That's a clip I need to put in here. I'm hearing this for the first time. So now that we're on the other end of it, you've gotten to revisit the first two films, and you've now seen 3 through all of World,
which was a bug wild journey.
So, and this is the first time to be seeing anything after Park and then anything after World.
By now, nah.
So I
wanted those dinosaurs everywhere. Let me see them on the Eiffel Tower.
If I may, with regards to the franchise as a whole,
dinosaurs are real in this version, and I think that it should have truly gotten apocalyptic by now. I think that we should have followed man's folly to the end.
Yeah. For me, if I could put on my grumpy hat for a minute.
Grump it up.
I enjoyed and had fun with, I think, all 6 of these movies. Like I said, not counting Rebirth yet. I had fun. I think some of that was due to the fact that I was sitting in the comfort of our living room and I had the ability to kind of go, what the fuck? Pause it. Yeah, just pause it, look at you, go, what the fuck did he just say? I think that was part of it. I would also like to put on the record, for those of you at home who also watch Pro and Noob over on the Mitch692 channel, you would know that during our coverage of Neon Genesis Evangelion, I, out of nowhere, based sheerly on vibes and instinct, looked at the screen and said, Rei Ayanami is a clone, maybe of Shinji's mother.
I was so mad watching these.
I went, Rei Ayanami is a clone of Shinji's mother, and it scared the shit out of Mitch because he had no idea how I just intuited that. And I want everybody at home to know I did it again. I paused the movie. I looked at Taylor and I said, there's going to be a clone in this movie. And I was like, I shit you not, I bet it's the fucking girl.
I was like, boo, Jared. Not seeing this movie either, so I was just like, all right, I gotta throw him off.
I had no idea.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't let Jared be right. Okay? On the record, I can never let Jared be right.
Especially not this specific way again.
No, not twice in a row.
Because anytime I get the opportunity to be like, my instincts never fail me, it pisses her off.
Yeah, it makes me mad. It truly upsets me.
Sometimes I just be shooting from the hip. I told Taylor and I told Mitch, I know a clone when I see one. I've learned that now. I've developed the ability to just go clone. But no, I enjoyed all of them, even weaker entries like 3 and Fallen Kingdom. I thought were, again, I thought they were hot messes. But like I had fun time watching them.
Yeah.
And I kind of found myself at this weird crossroad where I am of two minds with the franchisification of Jurassic Park. Where I look at this series and I get grumpy and go, oh, This is what everybody thinks the Star Wars sequels are.
True thing he said.
Because it was watching Fallen Kingdom. Because when Fallen Kingdom became a beat for beat retelling of the Lost World was when I kind of started to get a little pissy
over it.
Like, because I am a firm believer that
when they showed up in the same like bus, he was like, "All right, I'm done."
I mean, and again, like I get so frustrated that like people have intentionally bad conversations about pop culture. Yeah. That the conversations are reductive, that they miss the point on purpose a lot of the time, and that it ends up this race to the bottom of who can sound the smartest for disliking a thing. Who can throw out the nostalgia, empty, applause break insults at a movie the hardest and the most intelligent sounding. And then you have to balance that with the people who very confidently go, it's not that deep, while you also have to deal with the people who are getting shit wrong on purpose because it gets clicks. Right. And that's something that just deeply frustrates me. It's something that gets talked about on just about every episode of this show and Nights all the time, because it makes me angry. And this show partially exists so that I can, in my own little way, correct the record. And I'm watching this, and I'm having this impulse where I'm like, no, I'm like, if like Star Wars and the MCU get nailed to a cross for having like for having the gall to parallel previous stories.
I'm nailing the MCU.
Yeah. I mean, you're
me.
You're way less egregious about the MCU than you give yourself credit for.
But I don't. Listen. We have a love-hate relationship. Okay.
I understand.
We get together. We break up. It's really toxic. We get back together. It's great. We break up. It's really toxic.
Either way, but like Star Wars in particular, because it's been 10 years now of The Force Awakens is just a New Hope, and it's like, no, The Force Awakens is just a New Hope as much as The Phantom Menace is just a New Hope. You have your nobody hero found in this barren desert with destiny calling to them, and they learn that they have access to these great powers, and they cross the threshold, and there's an incredible weapon of some sort that is this abomination against nature in some way, shape, or form, and they play a role in destroying it by tapping into this great power. The Phantom Menace is as much as like a New Hope as The Force Awakens is. I think the only leg up Force Awakens has over Phantom Menace is that there's a droid with a thing in it. Other than that, it's pretty surface level, and I think it defeats the point of understanding that it's like poetry. It rhymes. That is a thing for a reason. All of that to say, I'm sitting there and I'm watching Fallen Kingdom, and I'm like, this is what everybody thought The Force Awakens was. Because it's beat for beat.
Wait, isn't this the one that followed up though on the joke that I was with the Navy, not the Navajo?
No, that's in Dominion where they paid off.
Shit. Where he was actually with the Navajo.
Yeah, but like now, and again, when I say beat for beat, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, we have to get over the biggest hump that comes with doing a sequel to anything in this series, which is we need to find a way to justify the dinosaurs being here still. We need to find a way to justify going back. And they justify going back the same way they do in the Lost World. There's research going on, and we need to do a rescue. Here, it's research and rescue of the dinosaurs as Isla Nublar is getting ready to have its volcano erupt. I would also like to insert,
which is God's way of telling us.
Thank you. Which is where I want to insert.
Bad, okay.
I don't know how much of an intentional decision it was for like the will of God to be kind of implied throughout the Jurassic World trilogy, but it's really funny that it kind of happens.
Like the Christian God is like, listen, dinosaurs are done.
down to the locusts.
I cut them,
down to the locusts.
Down to the and Caleb, whatever his last name is, of TikTok fame, made the same joke in Dominion. Okay. God does not want the dinosaurs. I am not religious. Okay. I would just have to agree with God in this. Okay. The dinosaurs are bad.
But all of that said, I got my grumpy moment. Okay, so we're going back to the island for a search and rescue to bring them back home so that this like gajillionaire piece of shit can now try to auction off the dinosaur. And oh shit, now there's a dinosaur in the continental United States, and what the fuck are we going to do about it?
Ooh, and it's an even special, more sinister, low-key black and gold Pittsburgh represent dinosaur.
The Indoraptor. I love saying it.
He said it so many times.
It was the only dinosaur I consistently called by its correct name.
Yes, everything else was wrong.
If it has wings, it's a pterodactyl.
That is a Quetzalcoatl, okay?
Pterodactyl. But I had my grumpy moment, and then I took a beat, and I was like, okay, Jarod, I think you're doing the thing that you get angry at people for doing. So I put that to the side. I was still a little grumpy, but I took a moment. I went, okay, appreciate it for what it's trying to do and trying to say. Now, here's where I think the Jurassic World follow-ups miss the mark as sequels. I think they have a lot of really interesting ideas about the implications of what man fucking with nature could cause today. I told Taylor when we were watching Jurassic World, and that was my first time seeing it in 10 years, because it's just as old as The Force Awakens.
So sour.
I was like, I said, I don't know quite how to quantify this and put this into words, but this truly does feel like a post 9/11 Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, and I was
like
it is so hard.
And I mean, granted, like, the easiest thing to point to, of course, is like we're now addressing the concept of the militarization of dinosaurs.
Of velociraptors.
I know specifically, but just the whole concept of like what are the real military applications of dinosaurs, of like how can we make these things weapons? And I love that theme
to the Middle East.
I love that theme, and I love that idea so much because it continues this idea of, like Ian Malcolm said, you spend so much time asking if you could that you didn't stop to think if you should. And the next logical step of, let's show them off, let's all bask in our hubris. The next logical step for mankind, in the same way it always is to immediately go, how can we sick this on people? Whenever we created computing, like as a technological function, we did not immediately start trying to use it for aid or or civil engineering or anything. It was immediately, how can we militarize this? How can we weaponize this? And that's what we do with everything. Nuclear power.
The folly of man.
Nuclear power immediately went to, how can we literally vaporize people?
At any given moment, this is where that, dinosaurs rule the earth. God kills dinosaurs. Man kills God. Man makes dinosaurs. Dinosaurs kill God. Woman inherits the earth.
Which is a great line. But yeah, and I liked that theme a lot. And I'm not going to armchair screenwriter, armchair direct and say what I think they could have done to capitalize on those themes more, because I frankly don't know. What I know is I liked the idea. I wish more had been done with it. And I don't like making criticisms like that where I can't point out, like, this is what I think could have been done. But for the most part, I feel like that theme kind of hung over these stories, and it never felt like developed enough upon for me to truly feel satisfied by it. So that said, I do think at the bottom of my list going into Rebirth, Fallen Kingdom was probably at the bottom. Maybe 3 and then Fallen Kingdom. Probably 3 and then Fallen Kingdom. Probably 3 and then Fallen
Really?
Kingdom.
I don't know. Alan pulls a lot of work for me there. Just the word Alan.
Alan.
For those of you at home who haven't figured it out yet, ever since we watched Jurassic Park 3, we will just walk by the other one and just go, Alan.
Alan. I constantly, like, if I'm in the store and I need Jarod and he's like busy doing something or like wasn't paying attention, I'll just be like, Alan.
But yeah, and you know, I will say Dominion, I fully understand why people don't like it. I get it. I kind of had a blast with Dominion.
Yeah, it was
like
fun, but it was fun. I feel like for me, watching it the first time with you, I was like, this movie I'm only enjoying because I'm watching it with Jarod and I'm having fun. I think if I would have watched it in the theaters when it came out, I would have been mad. I would have been angry.
I think I would have spent the whole time just laughing. I like because the movie just goes to such insane places. It again does what I think people what people think and criticize Star Wars for doing in the modern age of like, and the original characters are here to hijack the story now. Congratulations. But I did love that. Do
you remember Dr. Grant? Do you remember Ellie Sattler? Don't worry, they'll say each other's names 100 times. For friends, it's like they don't know each other.
It's kind of uncanny in that way, but I did enjoy not the changing
it's
of the
kind of like it almost was like a fan fiction at one point.
Yeah, that was a joke she had made many times. We were like, this feels a little fanficky, and it's kind of hilarious.
I was like, honestly, if it's a fan fiction, I'm way more into it.
And you know, I appreciated it as just kind of like an insane blockbuster that went to some wild places. I did almost throw my bowl of popcorn at the TV when the T-Rex moved in such a way that it recreated the Jurassic Park logo.
Yeah.
That sent me into a frenzy. Like I don't know where my line for overindulgent fan service is, but I do have that line. And that was definitely where it was.
Over it.
That flew over it, the supersonic speeds. Because it moved. I saw the T-Rex moving through the circle, and I don't know if you saw me. I started to scowl as it was walking over, and I'm like, "Don't do it!" And then it stops perfectly to go, and then I paused it and started screaming at the TV.
And I was like, honestly, this is wild that they're doing that right now. Like, they reference that logo. Like, that's a canon logo in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the logo for the fucking place.
Logo for the original park. James Johnson, or what, you know, from World, he wears that T-shirt into.
Oh yeah, he gets yelled at for it.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard, Claire yells at him for it. Sorry, I forgot that she's a character and not just a wonderful lady.
Hey, if I ever forget her character's name, I'll just say Yaddle.
Well, no.
Taylor was like, God, if Bryce Dallas Howard ever comes to our local convention again, I want to get an autograph. And I was like, yeah, you can get it. You can get a Claire autograph.
Oh, I'm getting
a Yaddle autograph. I will be getting a Yaddle.
Get her running, hopefully.
Yeah, do that. I'm getting one of Yaddle. I'm getting one of Yaddle because it's deeply funny to do so.
Like when we met John Boyega.
Understandable.
I forgot how words worked.
But all of that to say, I am not as invested and deeply emotionally connected to the Jurassic oeuvre as I am some other like legacy franchises.
Naturally.
Similar thing with Ghostbusters. I was like, oh, Ghostbusters Afterlife is true. In my opinion, I think it's a really good movie. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I watched that movie and I went, this is kind of ass, but it's fun, you know. And I think that's kind of my baseline for these like big tentpole flicks that I'm not like super engaged in. You know, I think Jurassic Park, the movie, is such a thematically rich film.
Oh yeah.
That like it leaves a little to be desired for me in its follow-ups. A friend of the show, Alden Diaz, you'll see him on our Superman review, which will be coming out early next week. You know, he made a very clever comment where he was like, I think in the making of these movies, they forgot that the big draw, what makes these movies work, is man dealing with how they fucked up by doing this to
Correct.
themselves, and not the thrill of watching dinosaurs beat the dog shit out of each other.
Absolutely. Well,
And there's fun in watching a dinosaur beat the dog shit out of a dinosaur.
Always will be. That's what documentaries are for.
But in that same way, to make the Star Wars comparison one more time, you know, it's the conversation that gets had about whenever you have people going, "Oh, we need an Old Republic movie. We need a movie about the Old Republic." And it's like, you don't want a movie about the Old Republic. What you want is a 2-hour-long live action recreation of those thrilling cinematic trailers. Like the one, Taylor, I showed you not too long ago where Darth Malgus flies a fucking shuttle into the Jedi Temple like a madman.
Yeah.
You know, people, it's like, no, you want 2 hours of that. You don't want a movie about the Old Republic. You want 2 hours of this specific fight. And I think that I think that Universal and those involved in the making of these films kind of lost sight of the thematic richness that defined Jurassic Park as a movie. And that's true of Lost World End of 3 as well. You know, I think 3 gets some more credit because it is a very interesting character study of Alan Grant.
That's that's one of those moments where it's like we get to see this is not an effect of the greater world. This is very much an Alan coming to terms with what happened to him, and also being able to overcome that trauma by truly saving some. Like, I think in a lot of ways in 3, he felt guilty about the kid who got electrocuted. You know, not truly saving him. You know what I mean? Like, and this was kind of his like, I did it right this time. You know?
Yeah, and he's clearly so haunted by his experience as well. Like not necessarily like not necessarily haunted by like the fear of the dinosaurs being there, but more just like that having to come to grips with like my field of study may be rendered completely obsolete by the fact that these things just walk the fucking earth again. And just and trying to like, you know, square oneself, like looking down the barrel of something just so beyond humanity.
And that he has not been able to truly say, because in 2 or in the Lost World, we know that him and Ellie had taken some sort of NDA.
Yeah.
You know, so there is a huge portion of that is him making up for that, you know, after he gets there, because obviously he doesn't want to go. Like, that's not the intention. That's not the plan. None of it was. And when he finds out what it truly was, he's going to double down. And he's like, all right, I'm getting out of here no matter what. If I can find this kid, that's the goal, but that's not the end. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that with Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, I feel like personally, I think we're starting, like, I think there are parts where I'm like, all right, obviously we are kind of going in the direction where I feel like this should go personally. But in Rebirth, we find out some different information. And it stops becoming quite as apocalyptic. So in Dominion and Fallen Kingdom, there's a lot of fallout with dinosaurs being in the modern world. Parks and, well, national parks especially, but like parks and cities and people having to come in
zoos, as implied by Rebirth.
Yes, and when we get to Rebirth, we get to a point where they're like, well, that's not the case. And I feel like there is that huge loss where the Fallen Kingdom and Dominion were kind of starting down that road, but like the dinosaurs being a thing should truly be apocalyptic at this point. Like, that should be a now everybody has to deal with it kind of thing, and not a, not a problem that is somehow solving itself.
Yeah, and moving into a conversation about Rebirth, I will say I think my biggest to get this out of the way as we start to delve into Jurassic World Rebirth, I think one of my biggest criticisms of this film is that this movie I do like. I like this movie. I want to say that before I say what I'm about to say, I want to make it clear I like this movie.
Enjoyed this movie.
And my Letterboxd review, I make it clear I like this movie, but this specific decision stuck with me in a way I don't like. I understand the franchise of it all. You need to get the dinosaurs back to a fucking island. You need to get them out of the world at large. It's just
because the story doesn't work though.
I understand that it's untenable now that the dinosaurs have broken containment. I understand that in a real world sense, it's untenable if the dinosaurs have broken containment. However, I think it was kind of fucking cowardly to have the transition of all the dinosaurs just live in this equatorial belt. They live in this equatorial belt.
They're in Jamaica.
I think it was. I don't like that happened off screen. I think there's an entire movie one could make. I think there's an entire movie one could make just about getting the dinosaurs where they can be safe.
But that's the thing, is that they basically were saying that the dinosaurs died off everywhere else, and that was what was like. What do you mean? They were doing fine, literally, for the last 15 years. And we have shown time and time and again that because of the DNA muck-ups that Dr. Wu was doing, they have the ability and capabilities to survive in different climates because they're mixed with different things. And so for me, it's one of those situations where it's like, what do you mean? That is a cop-out. That's a full cop-out, okay?
And again, I wouldn't even have minded if that cop-out was used in a story about moving the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like, if there is a film that is society going, we've made a decision to just kind of oogle at these things, and now that we've,
we brought them back.
We brought them back. We've mildly domesticated them. We have them in zoos. We're looking at them the same way we look at giraffes and hippos and elephants. Oh shit, they're dying because we have them here. They're dying because we dragged them kicking and screaming to this environment. I wouldn't mind there being a scientific techno babble moment where somebody goes, oh shit, these dinosaurs, here in New York, are not bred to do a New York winter.
Yeah.
That's simply not there. We genetically engineered them to deal with the modern day Costa Rican climate. We didn't gear them to be in Washington State, in New York City, in the Northeast.
The dinosaur black market trade, where they are being exported by these billionaires who we've seen time and time again, and Dominion, you know what I mean, we've seen time and time again where these people are always willing to pay for it, and I think you bring up a great point where these dinosaurs not being able to live in this climate is inherently an issue of a black market trade thing, which they've touched on time and time again.
And again, what the beginning of this year, egg prices went up because bird flu managed to mutate in a really freaky way. imagine the kind of zoological diseases that would begin to mutate and not only become a problem for the dinosaurs, because now they're mutating to attack dinosaurs, and because dinosaurs don't have the immune system to deal with other zoological diseases that already exist. Now, because these diseases have to do so much mutation to infect a dinosaur, now there's like a whole possibility of a human contamination. So like it makes so much sense for there to be a story about we owe it to these creatures to let them go back to as close to home as possible. And I just did not care for the way that the slate
over it.
the way the slate is wiped completely clean.
Is with the CNN blurb in the beginning.
By the CNN blurbs and the little like title cards.
Yeah.
I didn't care for that. You know, and it's something that stuck with me as this idea that like there is a whole story with just this. Yeah. There's a whole story that can be told. And, you know, and again, maybe the second Jurassic World trilogy is more anthology.
Jurassic World, Rebirth, Reborn, if you will.
Yeah, you know, like I don't know, you know, and again, you can have your antagonists. It can be your in-gen style people who are like, no, we want to keep this Biosyn, you know, all of these evil corporations. Oh, we want to hold on to like these specific dinosaurs so that we can keep experimenting on them. Like there's a secret military contract to breed dinosaurs to exist in whatever climate so we can deploy them.
We saw the raptors in Fallen Kingdom, Dominion, where she had the laser pointer. Beep, boop, beep, boop,
yeah.
Boop.
Yeah. Oh, they set that up at the end of Fallen Kingdom, and then they pay it off in Dominion, where it's like we see the pointer, we hear the noise, kill. You know, like I don't know. I just
the pointer.
No, there's a sound. There's a sound thing on the side of the gun. That's what they do in Fallen Kingdom, and then they do that in Dominion.
No, the laser is just in Dominion.
Okay,
they're loyal. They're bred so good and well.
Either way,
bullshit she was saying, that hot lady.
Either way, my point is that I feel like wiping the slate.
Distracted by her good looks.
Maybe. Either way, wiping the slate clean in this way at the beginning of the film frustrated me. Because it also, to me, kind of smacked of a concession of like, yeah, those other movies didn't work. But I don't think it understood why they didn't work. Because again, well, congratulations, fucko. There's a dinosaur down the block. That's kind of the logical conclusion that I loved about these movies. I love that they ended with, and there's just dinosaurs in the Rockies now. Now granted, I also understand that these movies have never like been super precious about dinosaur life in terms of like, you know, it's not rare to see a majestic beast get brutalized.
Like it's
they play it very seriously. They play those deaths very seriously, but they're never afraid to do it, is what I mean. And the whole, most of the dinosaurs across the world are dead now. That also felt kind of shitty that Blue died off camera.
Yeah, Blue, baby. It's my
like
belly.
that.
What about Beta?
Exactly. Like that kind of bothered me.
Beta.
Like I don't like, because again,
Beta.
like Blue and then later Beta by an extension, but Blue kind of at the centerpiece here is the only recurring dinosaur character. Sure, Rexy.
She kind of carries on.
She does, but she doesn't get any characterization.
Perseveres. No,
she doesn't get any character. Blue does.
That bitch is a dinosaur.
Blue gets characterization.
No, Blue is like a fleshed out.
Like again, as much as you can,
worlds and everything.
as much as you can characterize a not English speaking dinosaur, like through her relationship with Owen, through her loyalty to Owen, through how bravely she faces off at the Indoraptor, with how ferociously protective she is of Beta,
of Indominus Rex. Too.
Yeah, the way she throws down with Indominus Rex to protect Owen, like you developed the fucking character.
Everybody, like that's you're right.
You developed a whole character. Like, this would have, like, again, to make
really
a Star Wars,
a lot of weight for Jurassic World. Let's be serious.
to make another Star Wars
Look at the
comparison.
marketing.
Say what you will about like the landscape of the sequel trilogy. This is like if they killed Chewbacca in the crawl for The Force Awakens.
Yeah. But no, well, yeah, I guess, because even though Han Solo is Chewbacca's, but
Yeah, anybody watching this show knows Han is the dog and Chewie's the person. But
no, but moving towards Jurassic World Rebirth. Jarod,
yeah,
you have seen all of the movies.
uh-huh.
How'd you feel about Jurassic World Rebirth?
I liked it a lot. Again, in terms of my investment, again, I like this movie. It felt a little paint by number for me.
Okay.
No, and it's not even necessarily a bad thing. You know, I think one could easily compare this to The Force Awakens in many ways, in that this feels exactly like what you do to remind people why they love these movies.
I do a little bit of a soft, like, hey.
Yeah, soft, you know, reboot cool kind of situation. But like
bringing it back.
Yeah, like we're going back to basics. We're going back to basics kind of thing. You know, we're going to a place to find the dinosaurs. We're not dealing with the dinosaurs at home. We're going to a place. There's an evil corporation who's going to double cross our heroes, you know, but then it does implement some of those newer age things where it's like the big issue is this Rancor looking motherfucker, mutant monster.
That's because they be messing with all the DNA things.
It felt. I came to the end of the movie as we were leaving, and I said I think my biggest criticism, aside from the hand wavy, you know, kind of reset of how we engage with the dinosaurs, my biggest gripe was that like it just felt almost frustratingly safe. And if I have praise for Fallen Kingdom as Dominion, as messy and as insane as those movies were, they took wild swings. They took big fucking swings. And sometimes I don't care if it connects. I just commend you for swinging that hard in that direction. You know, those movies had the gall to go clone little girl and then double down on it and go clone little girl that is kind of the key to curing all disease.
No, it's not even really clone little girl. It's clone little girl who is made by the mother who is the clone base, who is actually using her DNA and the clone, you know, like it's a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. But
yeah, that's what oh my God, what movie? Oh, I said it about the producers on my Letterboxd review whenever because it's one of my favorite movies of all time and I never logged it on Letterboxd until I watched it a couple weeks ago. But like I said at the end of that, I'm like, sometimes the best way to style a hat is with another hat on top of it. And I fundamentally believe that. Like, again, maybe that's me being painfully maximalist. Maybe that's because I watched the prequel trilogy too much as a kid, but I like when it's maybe a little fucking too much sometimes. Namely, The Phantom Menace. I like when maybe it's a little too much sometimes. And I just kind of watched the movie and I went, oh, yeah, okay. So we're going to go to the island and we're going to gather up this gang of kind of generic group of fucking mercenaries, you know, like, and I think that was the other thing is that like,
we got real quick exposition about all of them.
Yeah. And it
was like,
it felt like Netflix style and I didn't like that bit.
In a car bomb. And
I had to tell his wife.
Mahershala Ali was like, good thing it was quick. And she's like standing there crying, like wordless tears. And she's like, it wasn't. And he's like,
I broke up with my wife because my kid's dead.
Got a divorce. Damn, your shit's rough. All right, those dinosaurs are like chasing us.
Oh, and then Ajax from Deadpool is just he's just cartoonishly violent and malicious, and Rupert Friend shouts out Grand Inquisitor. Hello, the sister.
I was like, I know that guy from somewhere, and he was like, you sure do.
He has listen.
Jarod like leaned over to me in the theater and was like, yeah, you know him. Do you know where you know him from? And I was like, no. He was like, hello, third sister. And I was like, so that's the guy?
Listen, quick side comment. When I rewatched Obi-Wan Kenobi last year for our Christmas episode, I truly forgot just how funny that weird little face he makes in the final episode is. Whenever Vader's like, I have to go fight Kenobi. Fuck this shuttle full of Force refugees. And the Grand Inquisitor literally just turns his head and goes, that is so funny. We need this man to play Grand Inquisitor again. Anyway, but no, I just like the characters, the performances are great.
Great.
I do like I don't want
attached to everybody. I was like, I'm in love with Jonathan Bailey, Bridgerton. Scarlett Johansson. I mean, is she my fave? Maybe not, but is she hot always? And Mahershala Ali, 2-time Oscar winner, beautiful man, wonderful actor, can't get enough. I'm signed on.
R.I.P. Blade.
He was asked on set how many the actors were in Marvel movies, and he said, "Go ask Scarlett." That's a question for Scarlett.
That's so funny.
Like, damn, they never make you in your movie, brother.
I still have hope for Blade, but no, like again, I don't want to confuse me saying that I think the writing was paper thin and the characterization was paper thin, for I didn't like these characters. Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, John Bailey, Rupert Friend, the actors who played the family that was lost at sea. I can't remember any of the actors' names there, but like all of them.
The T-Rex scene with the family in the water. Oh my Lord, that was so good. I was jumping out of my seat the entire time. I couldn't help it. That was. I know I have not read the book. I have not read the books, but I know that is a scene that is in the books.
Yeah.
And for that, I was absolutely, entranced. I couldn't get enough of it. I think that was one of the. I just absolutely was in love.
Well, pardon me. Hold your thought on that, because I do want to circle back to that for a second. In a second, but like I did really love the characterization. I think they all carried the screenplay on their back. I think the characterization was weak, but this cast breathed a lot of life into it. And on the topic of what you were just saying, and what you were just saying with the rafts, the T-Rex raft scene in particular, Gareth Edwards fucking massacres this movie as a director. He is so goddamn good. Like he is just whipping ass, and his ability to kind of frame these creatures is so remarkable. You can tell this is a guy who did Godzilla. You can tell this is a guy who truly made the Death Star feel as imposing as it was in Rogue One.
I got the cast up on my phone.
No, you're good. You're good. But I did want to call out while you were bringing up the T-Rex scene with the raft. I did just want to say, I think Gareth Edwards just directed the hell out of this movie.
Oh my God, it was beautiful. I mean, through and through.
And there are instances that feel very Spielberg. Like it feels very much like Gareth Edwards' take on Spielbergian principles. Like the monster is more scary if you cannot see it.
Oh, 100%. And it always is,
it was very much you hide the shark in Jaws. It was very much, the dread the
You
dread.
the shark in Jaws because you can't get the door.
That part doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. but that principle, that kind of became the signature of his.
Park because you can't get the T-Rex to work.
Yeah, but with Jurassic Park, the dread of the T-Rex appeared.
100%. I mean,
how much?
I think it's a lesson he learned in Jaws from that specific. There was a financial we couldn't get this thing to work. We worked with what we had, and it turned out unbelievably better than we could have ever imagined it did. Even though we were the idea actually works super well, so let's go with it. And then we learned that lesson and doubled down on it with the T-Rex and everything.
And again, and that's not to say, obviously we see a lot of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But again, go back, think about that movie. Think about how much the T-Rex is teed up as a threat.
I think it's funny because I watched Jaws.
We see one moment, we see the gnarled up fence, we see the wreckage, we see the rampage, and then we get the shaking, the tremors in the glass of water, distant booming noise, as the captions like to call it.
Booming noise.
Indistinct booming noise.
Booming.
So much of it is framed as this I can't fully see this thing. Even when we finally see the T-Rex, from the character's perspective, it's always I can't see all of it because it's so big. Those iconic shots of the dinosaur sticking its head down with the level of a flipped over car, where all you can see is part of its face, but you can't see the rest of it. No claws, no feet, no tail, no body, no nothing. It's just the face and a little bit of the teeth. How foreboding that is. Look at even look at Hook. My favorite Spielberg movie. Look at they treat Captain Hook the same way when he's introduced. You don't see Hook's face. The movie is named after him. Everything is talking about this legendary rivalry with him. We see hook marks in the wall, on the windows, on the door. We see the dagger sticking the note in there. And when we get to Never Never Land and we see Hook getting ready to go before his pirate society, we see his boots marching across the Jolly Roger. We see his hook being sharpened. We see him latching the hook in with that inexplicable electricity that sparks when he puts his hook into his hand. We get all of this really dramatic build up to Captain Hook finally showing up. I think that's a very Spielbergian thing. And Gareth Edwards takes points from that throughout the movie. Like we said, with the dinosaur or the T-Rex raft moment, where,
just the T-Rex in the water, the T-Rex in the
it rolling over and revealing itself, and then it disappearing behind the raft, and then, like you were saying, it's drinking water. It's distracted by the not pterodactyls, what I'm going to call them, pterodactyls.
Quetzalcoatl.
But then the moment with the D-Rex, the mutant one, that shot where it comes out of the smoke and the haze with the helicopter in its mouth. Where you see the searchlight of the helicopter and it looks like it's coming in for a landing, but it's just it leaning out. Again, that had a horror, very Godzilla framing.
Oh, yeah.
But the principle of the way it appears felt like the way Spielberg, it sounded like Spielberg said, hide it as much as you can, despite it being huge. And then Gareth Edwards went, well, I love kaijus, so here's how I'll do it.
Let's make it a double huge extra large. Super
size
me, please.
So it was just just really, really impressed by Gareth Edwards' direction here.
But looking into the larger, the film as itself, as a standalone film, I truly, really enjoyed it. I thought that the premise is maybe a little bit mucky, but sorry, my kitty is being naughty.
Sorry. I also got distracted because my group chat just lit up with updates on two of them who have seen Superman, so I also got distracted.
Fat Kitty is being absolutely naughty as can be.
Well, tell her she's not allowed to see Superman if she keeps acting like that.
I think as a film as itself, I very much enjoyed it. I think that issues that stem from it are more so of a mucking up of the like, all right, so what are we going to do now at the end? You know, I thought the action pieces were beautiful. I thought that the storylines were beautiful. I love the characters. At first, I did not like Xavier, the boyfriend. I was like, God, he sucks. But we're halfway through, and I'm like, I will die for him. Okay, I loved him. I thought that the family Isabella, I thought like the kids were beautiful. Isabella was a little girl with the tiny dinosaur that is an adult dinosaur. That's not a baby dinosaur. It's an adult
Dolores.
dinosaur.
But yeah.
Dolores, the dinosaur. Isabella, the child. I liked her very much.
You know what I found out her t-shirt says?
What?
It says life finds a way in Spanish.
That's so perfect. I think that I don't know. I think that the family really truly brought it home for me. I know that I feel like a lot of people will not appreciate their portion of the journey quite as much. Because they were not supposed, like, you know, the dad, Ruben, says, I'm gonna look up the cast. Ruben, the dad.
Yeah, I did remember his name. I did remember Ruben's name.
He had stated earlier in the film that like this was not a trip that this was the first time. Like this was kind of one of those things where it's like the last time for everybody. And so he had made it pretty clear throughout that like this is not something that like he is taking lightly, but it's also not something that he is unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
And I feel like the addition of the family to the journey does kind of hammer home some of the notes from the original like Jurassic Park where you know, the corporate guys, the Deadpool, what's his
Ajax, Francis.
Then him and Rupert Friend are like totally cool with killing Teresa, the older sister, letting her die, anything that it takes for them to get their check. And for the family to then circle back and meet our heroes, and for them to then be like, you know, not only did we survive, like they did not. I think it really brings home a lot of that, like those who are good-natured in these situations often can find a way to survive based on wits, based on smarts, based on the nature of filmmaking. But like it brings home that, you know, who died in the original Jurassic Park? You know,
The lawyer.
Nedry, the lawyer.
Yeah, Nedry. Nedry dies a horrible fucking death. But there are innocents who die as well, like Sam Jackson, you know?
That is the nature of
your favorite character, the hunter.
The park. I know, I love him. The nature of the park is that it's inherently dangerous, and that it inherently people who may mean good will end up in harm's way. And if you as a director or as a leader or as, you know, whatever, are willing to put them in harm's way, yes, you have to also be willing to take those costs. And for like the original Jurassic Park, you did lose characters who were truly there to help, who chose to stay there for the betterment of the group. But the issue, I think, personally, at the end of the day, for especially Jurassic Park, is that John Hammond, like they were not truly and properly held responsible for Sam, like Mr. Arnold and the hunter's death. Like they were not held responsible for that, and truly those deaths were on their hands. Nedry and the lawyer, you know,
I would say the lawyer as well. The lawyer put himself in a dangerous situation because he ran away from the kids. And like that was kind of like, you know, and that again, in that very
Darwinian lesson throughout Jurassic Park, like throughout these series, is that if you are a coward, you do deserve to die.
Well, and that's a very Spielberg thing, is that like the thing that you crave, if you come at it with malintent, it will cost you your life. That is literally how every single fucking villain in Indiana Jones dies.
So, like, it's not something that is abnormal, but, like, it is something that I feel does persist in a way in Rebirth that I very much appreciated. Because, again, who doesn't make it home is a big, should they have?
Well, yeah, and I mean with that, to steal a Force centerism, that emotional canon, with that comes, I love the ways that the themes tie into the name of the movie. That's something I really did appreciate as well. Is that, yes, rebirth of the franchise, sure, but like almost every single character in this movie is put in a situation. I think the only character who's kind of static, and static in a good, like static with intentionality, not static because of poor writing, but I think the only character who is static and comes away better for it is Jonathan Bailey's character.
I disagree. I knew you were going to say him, and I disagree.
Well, my thing is, and that granted, again, the emotional arc for everybody is very much the same. It is, I don't know if I can exist in the world as I thought I was meant to because of XYZ. With Ruben and his family, it is him coming to grips with the fact that his little girl is becoming a woman and that she has a boyfriend and he's around and he doesn't think he's good enough for her, which is the natural parental reaction. And she's going off to college. Yeah, and he's because of course,
really, really shows himself up.
Yeah, Xavier pulled up to play, but like so you have that whole arc of the family being reborn. That it's like you're going away. This is the last time I'll ever get to do this trip, and it's like, Dad, I'm going to college. We could literally do this over spring break, next summer, over the holidays. It's like she says, I'm going to NYU, not Mongolia. Which. With the mind-boggling line. I don't know why she picked Mongolia. I know she didn't say I'm not going to war. Could have been a more like whatever. But so like they're reborn. Zora and Kincaid are two characters who are defined by this traumatic event in their lives. Zora kind of goes into the movie with this sense of like whatever happens. There's a hold on, I'm gonna pause for a second. Pause for a moment, a little bit of technical difficulty. But no, like Zora
now.
Yeah, and you sound like I actually like how they sound much better. I wasn't expecting that. But you have like Kincaid and Zora who have both survived these deeply traumatic experiences, and they both have this again, they themselves have these epiphanies. With Zora, she kind of goes into things with this whatever happens, do it for the money, kind of, there's a God damn it. I can't believe I'm about to say this. Mitch, I fucking hate you. There's a Spike Spiegel element to her. I wouldn't go so far as to say Shinji Ikari, but there's a Spike Spiegel to her, where it's like, yeah, I'm just going along to get along, and I'm running into the next big payday to get away from how much it hurts to think about what I've lost. And with Kincaid, blow that up to 11. His child died. We don't know the circumstances. We just know that his child, is no longer with us. And he has that big heroic moment. Well, hold on, to stay with Zora for a moment. And as the film goes on, not only do you see her take this new lease on life, but we see her take increasing responsibility for the lives of those around her.
Yeah.
Up to and including this about face on, no, this evil company does not deserve the ability to sell the cure to heart disease for trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
This should be open source. This is something that should be so widespread that it is incapable of being done for a profit. And that is something that only somebody who embraces the responsibility of being of being a being in a symbiotic world, to use those Scotty J. Rowe terms, it's the symbiotic world that she lives in. And with Kincaid, he has this moment where Kincaid has a few moments throughout the movie where he low key is thinking about sacrificing himself.
Yeah, he's like, he's galing it up, man. Baldwin he is galing it up.
There's some gale there. I mean, Ionized Bastards is over now. I kept thinking about the very funny bit Alden started in one of the later episodes. You're in a mode. I don't want you in a mode. Get out of the mode.
Get out of the mode.
Don't be in a mode. And Kincaid has that triumphant moment where he chases away the D-Rex with the flare, and we see it go out. And and it's this heroic sacrifice. But these are one of those moments where walk that back. There is power in going, no, he made it too. And that he comes out of that situation he's literally reborn out of baptismal water with a new lease on life, having saved the lives of others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, we disagree on how much Jonathan Bailey changes.
I think that he does.
I don't think he changes that much, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there should be room, because I think if we're drawing comparisons to other characters in the other movies, Ian Malcolm does not change that much.
Yeah, all right. I get you.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
I like that you have somebody who goes into this situation very adequately calling the shot.
Yeah.
And going, this is insane. This is never going to work. People are going to get hurt. This is evil. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
That's kind of an archetype for Jurassic Park as a franchise. So I don't mind Jonathan Bailey being the, brilliant scientist who gets to walk into the room, give a killer monologue, cut promos on the evil billionaire, and then not have to change because he was right the whole fucking time anyway.
Yeah. All right.
I'm okay with that. I think that's good. And I don't call it derivative. I don't call it the, why can't the sequels get away with this kind of thing? Because he is on a character level so wildly different from Ian Malcolm.
Oh yeah.
It's not the suave. He doesn't have the weird, very idiosyncratic speech pattern to say these things he says.
Don't like Jeff Goldblum, maybe.
I don't. It's not that I don't. That's how he talks. I love Jeff Goldblum. That's just how he fucking talks. But he doesn't do that. He doesn't have that presentation. He's not presented as this suave, smooth operator. Kind of like bad boys philosopher.
Science.
Yeah, he's like this bad boys philosopher. He's
Although, hold on, the girl is on beige bulge. My girl's now.
I mean, I could use context clues.
Jonathan Bailey doing the Lord's work.
Indeed. But no, and again, I don't mind him not having a huge arc. He's a great character. I don't think he needs a full blown. He comes out of this experience a fundamentally different person.
Yeah.
He does, because he had to just do all this shit.
He just had dinosaur. He had a Quetzalcoatl. Fuck.
I'm Chloe. I suck.
I hate you. I'm never gonna be able to say it again. Right? I said it right one time, and I'll never be able to say it again. Quetzalcoatl. Oh, fuck. He had that goddamn big bird up in his face. And he is forever changed.
Indeed. But yeah, no, I really did like the arcs. And again, I just love that. I love the theme of Rebirth.
Yeah.
All of my bitching and moaning about how they kind of ran away from the themes of the last trilogy. They do embrace a new one here, and I'm excited to see if that goes anywhere with the future entries.
Oh my god, I just, much like Owen, I caught a little gnat right in my hand.
Just Mr. Miyagi, that shit. Hell yeah.
You're goddamn right, I did.
But yeah, Taylor, you have anything else? Or are you ready to bring this home?
I think I'm ready to bring this home. I absolutely love this film. I thought it was great. Did I go into it thinking I would like it? No. Truthfully, I don't think I really go into any films thinking I'm gonna love this movie. Mostly because I think I like all movies. You know, It's a baseline 3 for me. Okay, 3 is a good score. If I'm letterboxing it, that's 5, right? 4.
Letterboxd goes up to 5, yeah.
Oh, it does. Wonderful. So if I'm letterboxing this right now, I'm going 3.5.
Respectable. But yeah, I kind of gave my final. 3 is great. 3 is great. It's a great. It's a fine ranking. Yeah, I kind of gave my final thoughts with all the theme discussions. So, yeah, I think that's all we got for this one. Expect over the weekend maybe an Ironheart review, and definitely expect early next week a Superman review. So stay tuned for all of that, as well as an Acolyte retrospective, hopefully in a couple weeks as well. Once Spencer's schedule is a little bit more amicable, because he's had a lot of shit going on. Versus series stuff will be coming back. Speaking of the Versus series, I realized recently I have not been playing a favorite clip of mine to plug the Patreon. So if you'd like to support our Patreon,
Give me $1.
you can donate to the $5 tier where you get access to our back catalog of Patreon exclusive content like the Versus series and Heroic History 101. You will also get an early release for my upcoming first video essay on the channel whenever that comes out here, hopefully by the end of the summer. So stay tuned to that.
It's gonna be lit.
It's gonna be quite lit, I hope. But yeah, so that's all for Nerd Academy Pro and Noob. We're going to be back covering season 2 of Dan to Dan very, very soon. So be sure to check out the Mitch692 channel. And over on Epic Confrontations, the Star Wars in the Galaxy Trivia Sister Show, Hyperspace Gauntlet 2 is coming up on August 9th live that afternoon. I will be competing. Miss Taylor will be competing. A number of people will be competing, over 20 to be not so precise, but to give you an idea. That's the goal. So stay tuned for Hyperspace. I'm very excited. Approximately 20 people will enter.
I am definitely going to be there, and I'm definitely going to make it through the 5 questions I'm asked initially. That's the first round.
Hey, you set reasonable expectations for yourself. I won't be happy unless I win it. So
I am going to participate.
But yeah, so check out Hyperspace Gauntlet 2, and then obviously Ionized Bastards, ladies and gentlemen, is finished. Ionized Bastards is wrapped up. We have the full 3 seasons of that show. You can go check out on the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel, and go experience a wonderful story itself about Rebirth in a way. So go check out Ionized Bastards on the Remaining Systems YouTube channel and stay tuned over there for the next RPG series coming from Michael. You might see a familiar face or two over there. But with that said, thank you to our $10 patrons, Brennan Marr from Patroners They Were Not, Ray Clausen, and Paco. We appreciate all of your support. You get shout out at the end of every episode if you have the $10 Dean's List tier, or alumni tier, rather. Dean's List is the $5 tier. But thank you all so much for joining us. Stay tuned for more SuperJurassTastic coverage. Find Taylor on social media if she wants you to.
No, don't. Don't find me anywhere. Find me right here at the Nerd Academy podcast.
Bingo. You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast all over social media. Just search up Nerd Academy podcast and on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. But thank you so very much for watching, and class dismissed.
Stop!
Move away from the cookie jar.